I feel them cringe come from far away. I see them coming and they can't describe. I feel his face come from far away. I see them coming and they're here today. I see them cringe come from far away. Shh, shh. I see it coming and it feels the rage. Pum, pum. Pum, 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 pum. Pum, 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 pum. Another free game acquired. Ow. 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 Ow, I hear. We can't find the page you're looking for because this channel doesn't exist. I feel the cringe come from far away. Clap, clap. I feel it coming and it feels so strange. I feel those things come from far away. I see it coming and they can't explain. I see the pain come from far away. Clap, clap. I see it coming and they don't feel the strange. I see the pain come from far away. Hello, Buster. Listen, everything will be revealed when I put out my coverage of Starfleet Academy. But what I can sufficiently say is that if you love your brain cells, stop before you watch episode 5. Episode 5 will make you hurt yourself. Everything after that point doesn't reach the level of cringe that it was, but that episode will break you. If you know anything about Star Trek lore, if you care anything about Star Trek in general, it will break you. It will hurt you emotionally. Besides that, put my shit back on. Also, it's high past time for me to have to reset that community pod, don't know. But I'm gonna wait till the end of the month. I'm lazy enough that I'm not gonna change it right now because there's no point to. It's literally just a tip jar. But I'm going to be scaling up at the 1st of March. Whoa, shit. You sandwich still slamming. That was semi-big day today. I say semi-big because I have to put lead tint. I have to put lead head back in the fucking rotation. Oh god. Yet another piece of trash. And that one goes first before everything else. Yes, lead tint. We are not avoiding. We cannot avoid. We have to go in, guns blazing. You'd think it was mercy. You'd think me doing content with video games would be mercy, but no. We're not allowed to avoid. Be still, your beating heart. It gets worse before it gets better. I wish it weren't, but it do. It, in fact, do be. I gotta set up the X stream. Here we go. Here it is. Okay. We're getting set up here. Oh god, we're starting with pretentious fucking definitions. Avant-garde. Introducing or experimental or unusual ideas in art as an adjective. And revolution as a noun, the vanguard. Those who favor untested methods of organizing an unorthodox political action. Avant-corps. Adjective. Describing an artist who attempts to appear unorthodox without substantially challenging the status quo. I don't think that's what avant-corps should describe, actually. Because what that's describing is a poser, leadhead. We have words to describe people who are experimental on the cutting edge of their particular field of interest, and those that are effectively posers that are aping the style but have absolutely no substance, despite trying to take the appearance of it. When you use core, you're describing something that is to the heart of the thing. Grunge core, techno core, military core, art core. It's not something that you can use like an adjective, such as the way that people like to use sentence enhancers in order to create a new interesting description of the content that they're using. And the camera fucking froze again. Oh my god. I swear. It used to be the problem that people had problems with the webcam. Now it's a problem that the fucking webcam decides to deactivate every now and again. And yes, night core is a perfect case example. Granted, many of the ideas of what you could describe with a phrase is described by what the culture is, right? Nightcore is a subgenre of chop and screw. Chop and screw itself being a formulation of changing the impact that sounds and music have on you by changing the interpolation of the actual file, so that something that would go along on a normal beat would be something akin to DJ Screw or T-Pain and any of the things he does as a part of his production. I'm not quite sure what you're going for here, but if we're starting off with definitions, certainly you're about to explain to me why actually you're on the cutting edge of this thing you're about to describe yourself as being a part of.
Ten on 3, please.
You know, in art, we always like to say the things that we don't show are a part of the solution of things that we're doing. So are you telling me that you went to a store and you asked them permission so that you could record your avant-garde shit, Penelope? And are you telling me, Penelope, that it was intentional for you to position yourself in front of the modelos, and this not be a subtle phrase towards, our Mexican-American elite?
10 on 3, please.
How about hot Takis over their left side shoulder? What about the child who needs help if you can just give $1, $5, $10, or $20 at checkout to potentially help this young child be able to turn his head to the left, then to the right. What's it mean? What's it mean, Leadhead? What's it mean? Hey, Penelope is the name that Leadhead chose. At least it's not Lilith.
For over a decade, this lunch lady has crafted massive holiday displays from leftover boxes and packaging. Her whimsical decorations...
Hey, Leadhead, maybe don't smoke when you're pumping gas, even if you're doing it for your avant-garde video collection. But Carl, wouldn't it be better for you to hope that they know? Even with people who I find to be particularly fucking annoying. Basic fucking vehicle safety matters. Unless, if you want to die like the models in Zoolander, please, by all means, don't let me stop you. But, you know, common sense. What will you do when your fan base of avant-garde watchers no longer have your avant-garde content to consume? Your avant-garde porn that you produce on OnlyFans? Your avant-garde trans family and your transy house that you created off of being a malicious retard that would cheat on your partner and then, as a cope, publicly disassociate yourself from your cheating partner, from the polycule you created, out of grooming a boy and a girl to become transgender to their opposite gender. What will you put in the Patreon read for all your Patreon followers? Like, if you ever see a content creator do this, I feel like you should be fined for this kind of level of endangerment. Not just to people in the public, but also to yourself. It's like suicide prevention. It's like suicide prevention. You shouldn't be allowed to do this. And I know they live in the Appalachian South. So there should be people at the gas station telling them, don't fucking smoke at your car when you're handling gas. But certainly, being compelled to put 10 on 3 is a subtle code. A subtle code, you see. When they have to pump regular, because the 2 parts up are too expensive, it's just like when we as Americans pump ourselves full of carcinogens and plastics and microplastics, right? What's the subtle art there? What's the message? What's the message, artist?
Are garnering tons of views on social media, spreading joy and bringing smiles to all. Man, the most my lunch lady ever did was give me an extra scoop of Sloppy Joe, which was awesome.
The most my lunch ladies ever did is give somebody sloppy toppy after a sloppy Joe. That kid now has 3 kids by that one woman. At least it wasn't the rapist librarians. That is not a joke. That actually happened. As I look at my greedy reflection.
3, please.
For over a decade, this lunch lady has crafted massive holiday displays from leftover boxes and packaging. Her whimsical decorations are garnering tons of views on social media. Man, the most my lunch lady ever did was give me an extra scoop of Sloppy Joe, which was awesome.
Cheers to 2026. Wishing you a happy and healthy new year.
This font is so disgusting.
Japan's northern island Hokkaido was all set to permanently close due to low usage. That is, until they noticed a single student still taking it to school each day. They decided to keep the station open until the girl graduated, allowing...
Oh lord, this is gonna be a series. So who's a poser, allegedly, according to Leadhead? Let's find out, chat.
...service for her and 10 other schoolmates, which is cool, but when I was young, I walked...
The lost American on Earth.
...in the snow.
You guys, Wendy's has new biggie deals starting at just $4. So now you...
The following is a part of a dramatic fictional video series. It portrays a character being radicalized into a leftist organization. This series is in no way representative of any real-life organization or events. So, you're dramatizing how you became radicalized into becoming a video essayist? Pathetic. It's just fictional, guys. This isn't actually happening to people in real life, in real time. There isn't an entire sphere of content creator that comes from a specific and particular school of thought. This is literally how they create themselves and how they replicate. No. Don't be confused, Chuddy. This never happens at all. Tarnish the thought. The African American is literally on the screen in front of you is just lying. Ooh. Cute. The revolution will not be handled. Very cute. Get ready. We're about to see what Penelope thinks it looks like when a person is being radicalized and becoming a part of a left-wing organization.
Scene, take one. Clap sync audio. You ever notice how many businesses these days have those marquee signs out front with just a fraction of a broken sentence written out on them? I've actually got a folder full of pictures of signs like these that I've taken on my phone. My personal favorite is this Hardee's that I saw one fateful night. We all tend to complicate our comfort in our head and trick ourselves into thinking that we need the perfect music, the perfect climate, the perfect drink, and the perfect YouTube video to truly relax. But
so we're starting off with capitalism and materialism is cringe and gay. Okay? You know, businesses, Leadhead, use marquee signs to advertise. Especially things like Wendy's for LTOs. Is that something wrong with capitalism and materialism? Let's find out.
But sometimes our needs are much simpler than that. A hot chicken. And you know what? It worked. I got a chicken biscuit that morning and I was satisfied.
So you were a victim of capitalism. Limited time offer, Pip. It is when they do a campaign for a new food item. One that is either experimental from the test kitchen, or is a returning item that is on a seasonal rotation budget. Such as the origination behind the McRib. Or, for Arby's, the return of their tater cakes. Which is basically a giant hash brown wedge that is deep battered and fried just like any other hash brown. When a business wants to do an LTO, it is usually done as a part of a campaign to improve and boost sales in a region, or it is a national rollout of a new menu system or a new item. All businesses do a form of an LTO, but in food service, it is very common for them to make a very specific think about a particular food item, especially based on popularity. For example, the KFC Double Down. A sandwich made between two pieces of chicken. A fat ass's dream. Nowadays, most LTOs end up being very mid. For most of those, you can see that from Review Bruh on Report of the Week for the Running on Empty Food Review, where he usually goes through the majority of their LTO offers. Some are offered as dinner, some are offered as lunch, Some are offered, like the LTO that's currently going around now with Domino's, being a family meal that's about $20. Whatever an LTO is or does, it is usually going to be promoted on the marquee sign outside in front of the business, as well as the signage and the promotion material of posters that they'll put up on the windows of the business. Some businesses like to cut back, though. Like Bojangles. They used to have a very wide array menu until it became very uncommon for people to come into a store to actually consume food. Then they started reducing the menu of the things that they would offer into something that was much more compact. This is a consequence of COVID, to be technical and clear, but it's also something that you would do if you were a test kitchen or you were a current brigadiering promotional sale that is in a region. Like the difference between Hardee's and Carl's Jr. in the West and in the East Coast regions. Sometimes one menu works one place, and a menu that doesn't work in another place works only in the home capital. So you reduce and you produce and use only what is actually valuable in the region. This goes outside the scope of the conversation, but that's an idea of what an LTO is.
I'm about to take you to see the last person on the planet who still believes in the American dream, but I'm going to need to get into some seemingly off-topic observations about the modern world first.
I promise you didn't actually have to, because realistically, the American dream is that I have the right to do whatever I think would make me happy and satisfied with my living conditions. And the camera died again. That is all the statement really means. It doesn't mean 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, and a pet. The American dream is an establishment and an interpretation of the idea that everybody can work hard and eventually achieve the thing that they want, in terms of what makes them happy. What would that mean for every person if that was the interpretation of a proper means of the American dream? That you can be able to do work, gain favor, and gain status based on meritocracy, and establish a worldview for yourself. It really just means if what you want to be is a popular content creator that's happy with your audience, you do what leads in that direction. You live honestly, you live by your means, you live by your standards, and you're super fine. Otherwise, the American dream could mean anything. For example, let's say you're a transgender person who became groomed to becoming transgender because you fall into a left-wing dialectic in the organization of what is known as BreadTube. And your American dream is to make a name for yourself. So you decide that you're going to cheat on your partner, and then you're going to reconcile with them by playing Minecraft. And you make a series about how much of a good parent you would be compared to your own mother and father, but especially your mother. Because you want to go from being a woman, or excuse me, you want to go from being a man to being a woman, and show how much better you are because of it. If that's your American dream, and you want part of that dream to be people paying you money, watching your journey, and extrapolating feelings onto you, well, nobody can really stop you from doing it. Is that effective for your lifestyle? Is it good for everybody involved? Especially the part where you had to cheat on people? I don't know. I can't make that assessment for you. But I can definitely say that for myself, I wouldn't say that is a part of the American dream. No. I don't know how cheating and being a fucking harlot helps you achieve that. But maybe I'm confused. Who said that you were being interviewed? I'm just talking. I'm just talking. But I'm right.
Our culture has become increasingly comfortable with dehumanizing employees.
No, it hasn't. No, it has not, actually. We've become even more intensified about what happens when you try to dehumanize people. People cheer when they see managers telling very, very impressionable and impromptu annoying customers that actually you can't just bark your fingers, snap your fingers, slam a fucking ringing bell and say, why can't you do what I asked you to immediately? Why can't you take my order? Those have always been annoying people that we've always disliked. People have loved when people like that get their comeuppance.
Trash stores for selling rainbow capitalism merchandise as if the people cleaning that up have anything to do with it. We never answer honestly when a gas station clerk asks how we're doing, and we...
No, that's... You don't answer honestly. I answer honestly every time somebody asks me how I'm doing. And it takes them aback, because they're used to never getting a real answer. Because it's just a thing that you say for pleasantry. Because it's a part of the job. Very much so. But it's a human reaction. And as I've said multiple times on camera, especially when I'm playing content, is she going to pick up the phone? Apparently not.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
1 second. Okay, they're not leaving a message. Multiple times where it's mattered, I have always given people that answer. Because while it might be a part of the job for general niceties to say, hey, how you doing, how's your mama? I will absolutely tell people how my day's going. There's no embarrassment about it. Because most people probably do it to, like, be on the spot and shit. Me, I say it to have a human reaction because I want to see if they're actually, tuned the fuck in. Sometimes it brightens people's day. Sometimes people are not ready for that. Everybody's different. But, I ain't one of them motherfuckers like Leadhead.
Bring 40 tops into restaurants 20 minutes before closing. I used to know this one asshole, a rich dentist, and whenever he would go to a diner, he would leave 5 $1 bills on the table and just take one off anytime the staff messed something up.
Yes. The idea of the TIPS system. Tips to ensure prompt service. It is 100% a dick move. It is definitely a dick move to basically socially stress your server and or your salesperson at a sit-down restaurant that because you perceive them doing something wrong based by your standard, that you're going to refuse a tip to them because you didn't give me quality service. Despite the reality that in most people's cases, if the server isn't moving the way that you think they should move, but you can't see what possibly is causing it, it's your job to investigate. Hence, the Carl saying that people play video games the way they live their life. The kind of people in competitive games that would complain when you ask them questions about why something's happening are the same people that would complain about their food in a restaurant despite not realizing that they are one of many restaurant patrons that are currently having their food made. Maybe the thing that you're making isn't something that they keep on tap in the back. Maybe they're making it fresh. Maybe they're making it and they're trying to find the ingredients for something because somebody else in the system in the restaurant didn't follow FIFO. So they now have to make sure they go through the correct boxes of materials, and somebody on the back that's a part of the cook staff is trying to relate to the wait staff the reason why they're having the backup. And that server doesn't know how to address that information to you because maybe they're new. Or maybe they're afraid of what might happen should you have an emotional breakdown. No matter what their answer is, there is a reason why people used to do that in the past, but most people who do that are pretentious in the first place. Because it means that they were never really going to tip in the first place. And in my opinion, giving something is better than giving nothing. And it's definitely better to give a $2 guaranteed tip because, damn, money's tight and I don't really have a lot. But hey, I want you to know that I appreciate your service rather than putting money on the table and then every time you say something wrong, pluck, 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 like I'm playing a game of does she love me or does she love me not? Do you give me good service? Do you not? Do you give me good service? Do you not? Oh, you didn't say thank you when I gave you my joke. From both ends, because I've experienced this on both ends. From both ends as a customer and as a server, this is something that you should never fucking do if you want to actually be able to have human experiences ever again. Certainly, don't do this with just people who don't look like they can be able to take the criticism of the shit. You should not do that. I don't know what dentist they're referring to, but I guess I will have to be forced to agree. That sounds like a pretentious thing to do. However, I don't trust Leadhead retelling this story. Because while I know it's a practice that people like to do, that's not something I'd have ever seen people do within the last 10 years of my life. Because people who are going to leave it, or who are going to leave a tip, are going to leave a tip in the first place. People who play games with the server to try and entrust them to go do extra shit, Usually the server understands that it's a fucking trap. So unless they put the money in your hand, even then, it could be a trap. Here's $100 if you come back with this woman and blow her back out but in the middle of your shift. Nigga, I have bills to pay. What do you mean $100 to blow my back out? Oh my god, the camera froze on such a funny face. Click, click. Like, what do you mean $100 to blow your wife's back out in the middle of my shift, bro? I got bills to pay. I got a child to feed, etc., etc., etc. You think $100 is what it's worth to blow your woman's back out? Make it $500.
Freshly topped off coffee for me, but not for thee. As I'm sure anyone who's worked at a gas station or a fast food restaurant or really any job that serves the public will agree with, customers can occasionally be the highlight of the day, but the vast majority of the time, they're assholes.
No, the vast majority of the time, they're completely non-applicable. The amount of people who will abrasively make your day worse is much smaller than the amount of people who just are wallflowers. Yes, there are people who definitely make your day brighter, especially if they're commoners, especially if they come to your shift of work because they want to come be served by you. But that's a worldwide difference between your favorite foxy grandpa who came in for his regular egg sandwich biscuit, or a mom who's very much stressed out by her teenage daughter who just needs a shoulder to cry on as you pour her more orange juice and coffee. Or a small little Timmy who wants you to make him a milkshake despite the fact you don't have milkshake ingredients and you find a way to make it work because you used to work in a juice bar, and the mom, completely oblivious, doesn't realize the great boon you've done her by pleasing this kid because he was begging to go to one restaurant to go get something that he demanded he have, and now he's just sitting happy, content in his own little world, playing with his Digimon Adventure 2 toys. Most people are just not mentally there. It's just an interaction. It's literally just an interaction. It's just money exchanging hands and you servicing as the many-arm apparatus of the business that you are currently employed by. It is no more different than a kiosk. However, most annoying people, they don't have face-to-face interactions. They're more than likely the people who are ordering over DoorDash, because they would get punched in the mouth if they acted like that in public. They might get banned from a restaurant if they acted like that in public. But if they put out a certain amount of money, a baseline amount of tip, and they say to themselves, I'm not going to put tip on this person's money when they come to the door, the way that my food is prepared and put together, and how whether or not they followed my specific explicit instructions dictates the tip that they get. And then when I check my food's not the way that I asked for it to be in my special delivery instructions. That's the more likely case example that you deal with. It's the asshole that you don't see, not the asshole you do. The one that you see very often in public is a very special phenomenon. And most people usually have shame, because it's the shame that stops them.
Management is a bunch of assholes too. Did you know that?
That can sometimes be true. Some bosses are bad. Some bosses are good.
At a lot of stores, Starbucks employees get chewed out if they don't write a unique message or draw a little doodle on each customer's cup.
I don't know about that. That seems like cope, but it does sound like something that might be true for a pseudo-corporate business that's supposed to appeal to the millennials that are going to be drinking the $5 to $15 crap that they have to push out the door.
Nope, that cute barista doesn't like you. His manager has just been forcing him to pretend that he doesn't have a grueling, dehumanizing job. Really, you shouldn't be supporting the union busters of Starbucks anyways, but I digress.
Yes, you digress because you don't actually have any true opinions. You don't have any true opinions, leadhead. However, no, it is actually great that shame is systematically being weaponized, because it's much easier in this time period and age, but it also comes with the consequence, right? It's much easy to pull out your phone and be like, hey, yo, bitch, you want candy camera? And possibly prevent somebody from acting like an asshole. But it's very, very common where somebody seeing somebody else have a Karen out is going to just take out their web phone, and something that would have just happened and it would have just been like a, damn, they must have just been having a bad day type of shit that you ended up enduring, ends up destroying somebody's life over something that is not that actually that serious. Like this fucking cell phone. Social media in general has become a caustic stone that has done nothing but wear away and tear away at the trust that we used to have in society. Is it a good thing that we have it? in case people, need to defend themselves in a Kingsman-like situation? Absolutely. But more often than not, it's attention-seeking bastards who want to go viral off of somebody else that they want to ridicule. Ergo, look at X and look at all the accounts that have a gimmick about making fun of somebody who's molding, seething, and coping. What another great shot from my camera deactivating. Oh my god. It's like a portrait. There are way too many people who are very quick to monetize antagonizing people rather than just, have you ever considered that you're a dick? And then leaving it there. They do this. They do the Yu-Gi-Oh! Mind break by themselves. No need for you to create an audience for you to be able to make money off of it.
Hey baby, what's up? No, I just had a solid idea for a video. I'm filming the opening scene at Wendy's right now. I'll be back soon. No, it's all good.
You see, what it's symbolic is that in the process of the grind state culture of the Sigma grind set, the fictional character forgot to put the gas cap back on and to close the gas cap door. This can be considered the insignia of how many people in the rat race that they're crushed under capitalism forget to do basic things like hygiene and self-care or going to the doctor when they don't have insurance, and how over time we all are victimized by the systematic oppression that comes from the hierarchy and the many levers that capitalism pulls to torture us.
Hey, listen, I was thinking about going to Arby's after this. You want me to grab you something? Yeah, I don't blame you. Alright, love you, Kirby. Okay, take two. You ever notice how many businesses these days have those marquee signs out front with just a fraction of a broken sentence written out on them? I've actually got a folder full of pictures of signs like these where I take them.
Whatever happened to people writing out a script, memorizing what they have to say, and just doing multiple takes? Certainly all the tech equipment can be useful for when you have to work off of it, but it makes it fake to me. I've never liked staged prop shit. I've always liked personal real shit. What's the word I'm looking for? Imposition and, prudish thing for me to actually want, but I really hate how Leadhead makes their content. Unironically so. Even in making a fictional piece of work, the pretension that Leadhead has in general about how they make avant-garde material always bleeds through as a poser.
It don't fucking matter, man.
Are y'all open?
You see, this the upfront take of being startled by a loud voice over the intercom after asking a very chalant question about whether or not the business is open is how capitalism can surprise you at any moment, simply churning to life like a machine, not at all responding to the human interface that we have in a day-to-day procession. Spoofing this is giving me life. And it broke again! I'm gonna plug and unplug it this time. I'm gonna plug and unplug it. I'm gonna plug it. I'm gonna unplug and plug it. I'm plugging it. I'm plugging it. I'm plugging it. I'm plugging it so hard. I'm on my hands and knees. How I'm plugging it. How I'm plugging it. Uninstalling. Deactivate. Activate. Okay. And we're breaking. What is wrong with my shit? Is this the consequence of Chinese knockoff shit from Amazon? Certainly so. Boy, is that a fucking eyesore. And anyway, it goes back to normal. Assuming that it starts fucking up again. I don't know, man. 720p, Carl, doesn't feel like it's what it's cut out to be.
Could I just do a number 3, please?
And it starts fucking up again. Give me a second. Microphone's working. And a 1 and a 2 and the skiddly-diddly-doo. And right again. Properties. Streaming camera. Activate. And deactivate. Activate. Oh, Lord of mercy. Sigh. I feel like the result here that is I have to reset the, have to reboot the computer. I can do that very quickly. Give me like a half-second chat. You will ring right back after these nappy-headed messages. Yes, Leadhead in fact cursed the camera. True. Big true. Okay, give me like 3 to 5 minutes. Probably actually shorter than that. Probably only take me 1 to 2 minutes. But 3 to 5 minutes. Tops. Okay. That didn't take that long. Beep, beep, bop, boop, boop, beep, beep, bop. I have returned, and under, I can only assume what should have been like a minute flat. Okay. Microphone's working. Now for the webcam. The webcam is taking a second. First, let's just double check all the connections.
I'll walk up here. Roger, you remember what I told you?
Could I just do a number 3, please? With a Dr. Pepper medium?
Pull around.
Thank you.
Get this one up. Get this one up. Okay. Groovy. Cool. Everything working except the fucking webcam. Device properties, device properties, device properties, device properties. Audio, device properties. Sound settings. Input. Device. We're at 100. Wonderful. Device, 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 device. Device, 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 devices, devices, devices. Alright. Optical mouse, da 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 da, streaming camera. USB video. Other things such as the TiVo. Da 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 da. Okay. Let's try this again. USB. Activate. Activate. Nothing happens. Streaming camera. And we're glitching like fuck. Why? At this point, PNG is being forced upon me. I'm going to put this back in the original splitter. And hopefully try this again. I swear to fucking God, man. And that doesn't even guarantee that it's not going to have continuous problems again. Alright. So your fictional character goes to a fictional Arby's and orders a number 3. I'm not sure what we're going for here, Leadhead, but let's just assume your student film goes somewhere.
Welcome to Harvest.
Could I just do a number 3, please? With a Dr. Pepper medium?
Pull around.
Thank you. That by customers over the same 15-year-old headset that Mr. Dave Thomas himself approved of for Wendy's employees? I think not. So, with assholes barking at them both in front of and behind the counter, a lot of employees at a ton of different businesses have understandably been doing what's called quiet quitting. It's when you do the bare minimum at work, strictly what you're contracted to do and not a thing more.
Pause. So, that's not called quiet. Well, I understand that's what people claim quiet quitting is, but that's not what quiet quitting is supposed to really mean. That's called doing the bare minimum. If quiet quitting is equivalent to doing the bare minimum, it is because when you ask for the effort that is meant to be put forth by a person of a position that is above your station, and they then entrust you with that work because they don't have to pay you more, because you're in the position of an employee that does not get salary, and you're doing the work of everything else, specifically about just, this is work that I'm doing, am I being paid extra for it? Most people, rather than continuing to do overachiever effort, would rather do the bare minimum. Because doing the bare minimum of what their job requirements are is actually a defense tactic. You can ensure that you get given the rights that you should have by doing the job that you are paid for, rather than trying to do job positions over what you would be expected for. Like, if you want to be a shift manager, you should be capable of handling shift manager duties. But if they're foisting upon you shift manager responsibilities, and you're just an inside store worker, why do that effort? That's stress on you that you don't necessarily got to take. And people appreciating it should equivocate into something physical. If it doesn't, do your job. It is what it is. I don't know why people try to call that quiet quitting, but that's retarded. And they deserve to be made fun of for trying to call that quiet quitting. Quiet quitting should sound like quiet quitting. Like, applying to another job, giving no 2 weeks notice, and then basically clearing your desk and disappearing without ever doing something like an exit interview. No exit interview, no conversation, just gone. That would be quiet quitting. People have done that as well, actually. And that I would agree with. However, I don't like how people who are basically anti-capitalists do not understand capitalist terms and then try to apply them onto everything else. Dumb. I gotta answer DMs. You should work hard even if you hate your job. It's more meaningful than that. Of course, you should look for a new job when you can, but in my experience, turning the other cheeks do. Ow. See, most people don't have that philosophy. They don't see it that way. I have a strong work ethic, but my appetite for work can be spoiled very quickly based on how other people around me choose to behave. The only reason I look crispier is because I turned the light on. But it really just depends. There's lots of factors that could get in the way. But in my opinion, the kind of things that prevent it and create it is dependent on some stuff that people would rather not address. At least not directly. Because there's something in the way.
When their boss calls while they're off the clock, they don't pick up. When the manager says to put a sign on the menu saying something's out of stock, they do it in 2 seconds with a Sharpie and the nearest random piece of cardboard they can find. And that is how we get back to hot chicken. Not counting DoorDash, I haven't worked fast food in nearly 11 years, but I can't imagine...
So you have a out-of-moded and out-of-date viewpoint of what fast food workers actually deal with. Because you have to actually be in a store environment to understand a store environment. Especially when it comes to the liaisoning of opportunities and responsibilities.
Leaving a sign like that and not getting yelled at for 15 minutes in the manager's office for it. But nowadays, I see fast food and gas station employees doing this type of thing everywhere. Paper signs.
Pause. That's because most people in those positions and jobs basically are being fucked over because a store chain has a tier of responsibility that basically cares more about efficiency and effectiveness than it does about liaison effort. So, my recent gas chain and a couple of other stores in the area work under Couche-Tard, which is the Canadian brand Circle K. The Circle K store that I used to work at during COVID as a priority first responder, essential worker, had a 3-clerk rotation. 3 people staffed in the store, 2 people capable of dealing with registers, 3 people if the lines get long. People need gas, people need food, people want food items, people need essentials. You also need to work with vendors to help the vendors stock the beer cove, because every store in Couche-Tard has a beer cove, which is basically a large walk-in freezer that contains all of the alcohol possible. And then the side order for the actual coolers that stock all the liquids and drinks. All the energy drinks, all the juices, all the luxury waters, all of the sports drinks, and then another section for the malts. The malt liquor, the assorted seltzers and hard seltzers, and the foreign drinks, like Modelo, which can also be stored in the beer cove, as well as the soft drink machine and the frozen machine. One person's job, as well as the tornado stand. Can't forget about the hot dog and quick wrap tornado stand. The job of these employees is to basically have these things stocked and ready for the public so that they are ready for consumption and consuming use. So that means when it comes time for the meals and hot dogs, they need to be put out at a certain time of day. So do the tornadoes need to put out at a certain time of day. You need to make sure that they're cooked. You also need to make sure that the coolers get restocked because, if somebody wants to buy something, they can't buy nothing that's up there, and you need to have it fronted as well. That, and also securing your regular stock of cigarettes and nicotine products, as well as your gas station dick pills, and now the essential product that's almost sold at every single gas station, gummies. CBD gummies, to be exact. Because you can't sell hash, but they can sell something that's like hash. The people that work in that store have been churned out just as much as I was. I left to go work at Iodine. Other people left to go find something meaningful and useful with their time. But everybody got tired of it because of the way that the business overall from management was treating all of us when it came to the effort and work. Because essential worker or not, we can still get shot at. We can still get held up at gunpoint. It's inherently an unsafe job. It's just that the amount of times in which you're going to be held up depends on the type of time you're going to be held up. Me, I was ending up working on what was the overnight shift. So, I went from that job to another job to another job to eventually ending up across the street at Domino's. I would rather work a Domino's shift as an in-store worker, slinging pizzas, than potentially getting held up in a gas station at gunpoint during a late-night overshift. It's not about the responsibilities, it's about the risk. Somebody like Edhead doesn't understand that. Because they think the worst thing is the customers. Customers are customers. Like I said, some are wallflowers, some are actively obnoxious, and some are pleasant. But, criminals are also criminals. And that nigga ain't finna ask me about how my day was or tell me about how his day was when he's got a Glock in my mouth. So, risk assessment at the end of the day, bro.
Signs blowing in the wind saying card reader doesn't work. Music blasting through the kitchen to where everyone in the restaurant can hear it. People casually swearing over the headset in drive-thru lines.
I have never seen that happen on a regular. I've heard of examples of it happening, but it's not something that was happening so much that it's just like, yeah, don't go to that window. Don't go to at Wendy's. That's the nigga Wendy's. That's the ghetto window. No, actually, we have the opposite saying here in town. The nigga store is usually the store that has the best customer service. Because the nigga has to fucking slang the goddamn hot dogs, burgers, candy, soda, and whatever the fuck they got to. So why not have fun in your job while you're doing it? The food's gonna get cooked either fucking way. So at least You can be able to make sure the customer gets what they asked for, and the guy who's slinging said burgers, assuming they're having to work around technology like an automated AI system or a kiosk system, has the ability to slang the shit out, and you don't get in his way, you don't get in the other people's way, they don't get in your way, and everybody doing their job means you get to go home faster. Because an efficient job runs like clockwork and doesn't make you feel like the world is going to make time slow down for you.
I really hope that this doesn't sound like it's me complaining about lazy workers. That couldn't be...
I mean, it is actually, it is you actually writing a character that sounds like they're complaining about lazy workers, because you are, in fact, complaining about lazy workers. Lazy workers.
Further from my actual opinion. This, to me, is a really beautiful thing. This, to me, is a reason to have a little bit more faith in my country. When I was younger, all the public-facing corporations of America put a lot of effort into maintaining their image. McDonald's had play places, and then they traded those out for a sleek, modern design, more like a...
Pause. That is a lie, Leadhead. Certainly, the enshittification and the brutalization of food corporations over the years has been a siege problem. Yeah? But Burger King and McDonald's both still have play places. They literally both still have them. Literally any time we take time out to have a family dinner involving both her and Zulian, we go to a play place so that he can play. Chick-fil-A has them. McDonald's still has them. Some places that you wouldn't even expect still have them. And if not having one, there are locations nearby that are public that will more than happily leave the lights on for you to play with your children at said park. You're not going to see people doing it all hours of the night. You're more likely to see niggas in the street having a pickup game on the basketball court, if then doing that. But during the day, during normal daytime operation hours, where the rest of the waking world is, no, there are parks, and there are people investing into them. But you know who usually is doing it? It's not corporations. It's churches. It's neighborhood watches. It's investment funds that come directly from the neighborhood themselves raising money around a community center. It's the local Y. It's the Boys and Girls Club. Hell, it can even be organizations such as the Boy Scouts or Girls Inc. Blaming corporations for something that they don't actually have to offer, despite the fact that they are instead actually still offering it, is cope. But see, that's like saying that Taco Bell's used to have a play place and then they got rid of them. I don't think I've ever remembered them having that. But certainly, I come from the West Coast to the East Coast, so what I remember in the 90s and what is here in my state today are not the same. But certainly, I do remember when they used to have the Nintendo, GameCube. I do remember when they used to have actual consoles that were locked to the business, held behind those potential peripheral controllers. That I do remember. They got rid of those, but they replaced them with something else. You know what they replaced them with? They replaced them with basically the Raspberry Pi technology that has infinite video games put on top of them for the kids to play on. The good McDonald's have 2 of them on each ends. The good Burger Kings also have 2 of them on each ends. The ones that are like an airport throughway, a nearby, if not airport-like fast food joint, do not have them. If they do have them, they have 1 of them. And usually the kids don't even interact with them because they're not even fucking being allowed to play with them because the parents are like, no, don't you go over there, little Timmy, before you get diddled. COVID did things to people's brains. That's all I can really say on that end. But no, they have those things. They got those games. Certainly, we would prefer, you leaving fucking pod racers inside of it. Or, Luigi's Mansion or some shit. But the times change. The cultures change. We live in a post-E3 world. It's just not good for business. It costs money.
Cafe when their primary customers stopped being folks that could afford kids. Disney World was generally understood to be the most magical place on Earth. Seeing random fast food cups stuffed into the aisles at Walmart was a super rare occurrence still, and the only music that you'd ever hear at a Burger King was mind-numbingly safe pop classics. Nowadays, things are a little bit different. Nowadays, employees have been pushed so far that they really don't care about protecting their employer's image anymore.
Pause. It is a part of every single employee's contract that they would rather you prioritize the safety of yourself and the staff during things like a holdup than you try to intervene and stop the robbers. They actively care more about customer and about clientele and employee safety, despite the fact that it has a lot more to do with the branding than it does your personal safety. Because if you try to stop the robbers with your own cell phone piece, they will fire you. They will fire your ass. And it's not because they don't care about their employees. It's the DoorDash girl situation, basically. Liability is the word you're looking for. Liability.
After years of management demanding more and paying less, union busting more and more...
Not management, corpo. There's a difference between management and the corporation. Do I think E3 can make a comeback? No. Game journalism can't make a comeback, and E3 can't make a comeback because we no longer need to have people going to expos in order for them to demonstrate a game. Any particular niche thing that wants to have a convention can just make one. There are certainly events that still exist that will allow you to go to them and basically have a booth and a panel. But any particular one that is big enough to have a monetizable fan base, like ExileCon for Path of Exile, or even ToonFest for fucking Toontown Rewritten, you just make your own. You don't have to wait for the industry, and E3 was an industry show presentation, to do so for you. If every E3 was to come back, it wouldn't be physical. It'd be like the Triple I Initiative. There would be an all-online presentation that's organized by people that know that you don't have a lot of time and don't have the time to go traveling to go do shit. It'd be nice, but I don't imagine it'd be good.
More preemptively and letting customers walk all over the employees all day, it seems to me that the modern worker has completely divorced themselves from the idea that the managers and the co-workers are all one big happy Dairy Queen family. When you become a manager, or God forbid an owner, the only relationship that you will ever have with your co-workers is employer and employee. At big
That's not true. Because in reality, what you're talking about is the difference between a mom and pop shop, a franchise owner who's in touch with his community and his and their consumer base, and a fat jackass who collects investment checks from a business that he owns, while the CEOs that manage the corpo do all of the middle management work and all the HR for you. That is the difference of what you're talking about. The third type, oh, they don't care about anybody. Mom and pop stores, oh no, they care intimately about their employees because they have to work with them. Hell, the difference between those is what allows people like food critics to go to businesses and bless them with outreach by showing that they have good quality food, good quality service, and that they appreciate and understand what it means to have customers and clientele and to represent yourself as a part of it. Like, that's why Mike Lee and his wife literally run the gamut on that. When you get snuffed for what effectively is pretension because you believe that you're able to be an asshole, that shit catches up to you faster, sooner, rather than later. Because it's all about appeal. You can make the same argument about content creation, but it's a bit different, you see. One is entertainment, the other one is consumption. You don't come here for me to cook you burgers, but if I did, I probably wouldn't berate the people who are asking for the shit. But I don't think Leadhead knows the difference because I don't think Leadhead understands the difference between the social and the parasocial.
Like these, any manager attempting to bond with an employee in any sort of solidarity is just, well, embarrassing themselves.
Depends on the gap, depends on the age, depends on the kind of socialization. Managers are people too. Hell, when I was working for Domino's, I actually connected with the replacement manager that they sent from my store because my replacement manager actually played RuneScape. And I mentioned and had a conversation with him about it. Because this was during the time of the release of the newest minigame for runecrafting called Guardians of the Rift. I mentioned to him that I only play the game when I have the capacity and the money to afford the bond and or the time in which to earn the in-game money to buy the bonds. And he's like, I don't know. I just quit that game for a while. And we actually laughed about the all-popular saying, no one truly quits RuneScape, they just take long breaks.
Management started treating workers like they were disposable, and now, more and more, workers are treating their company's reputation like it's disposable. And
I mean, they're just employees working for a business at a job. If the company's reputation is disposable, it's because the company doesn't care about their own reputation. Not because the employees of the business are going to be representative of it, because they're just employees. If they're bad employees, find new people to replace them. And then that, of course, gets into the conversation about, we can't find the employees to replace them. Nobody wants to apply for our shit job. And around the kicked can of representation goes.
I couldn't be happier about that personally. What that means to now, more and more, workers are treating their company's reputation like it's disposable. And I couldn't be happier about that personally.
Yeah, I bet an antisocial misanthrope like you would be definitely happy about people rioting against the people who sign their paychecks. Because you confuse that with class consciousness.
What that means to me is that generations of corporate grooming are finally starting to fall apart at a large...
Literally what I just said.
...scale. Those play places, the mascots at Disney World, those employees going the extra mile to make their bosses happy, that was all fake. People hated their bosses back then too, only now they can't even be bothered to pretend that they're working at the gas station for any reason other than coercion under the duress of their housing security being threatened if they quit. What this means is that while the folk working these degrading jobs aren't going to pretend to be happy to see you anymore, they will be a little bit more human than the system was allowing them to be before.
Literally the worst interpretation. But it's fictional, guys. Fictional. This is just fictional. This isn't at all the world that they actually believe and think. No, it's fictional. People were already human before COVID. People were already human before the housing crunch and the housing squeeze. People already had emotions before. If there's anything that has changed, it is the level of exhaustion, dude. The speed at which you choose to claim somebody else's effort and somebody else's, quote, resistance as a part of your worldview and narrative is so bizarre. So fucking bizarre.
Nowadays, we get to hear real music when we go to gas stations. We get to talk to real people when we go out to get some chicken fries. And when the debit card reader goes out for the 5th time that day, we get to share a real moment of hating Triangle Stop together with the clerk working the counter. That is class solidarity, and that's the thing that gives me this small modicum of faith in America.
Carl was right. Carl was right. Carl was right. Don't we ever get tired of Carl being right? I get tired of me being right. Ugh! No, Leadhead. People being frustrated at the many problems that come with a dilapidating country that is falling into crony corporatism and crony capitalism, as you would call late-stage capitalism, which is really just material exhaustion, is not class solidarity. It is you sharing in a human moment. They do not have solidarity with you and your movement and your politics. Just because they're exasperated with a corporation and a company being too lazy to fix and replace and install new card readers, is not proof positive of, yes, they're realizing that they can become communists like me. That's not what that is. That's not what that is. They're not going to instantly start agreeing with you and saying goons, goons, goonery, dude.
The gas station clerk, the drive-thru worker, the janitor, the waitress, the Uber driver has finally managed to free themselves of the performative side of serving crappy products to ungrateful customers.
Pause. No, they haven't. The difference is that in the places where they can have a human reaction, they are open to it and more receptive to it. They could already do it. The difference of a DoorDash driver having a human response with people is the response of someone showing that they care intimately about how they themselves are doing things rather than how they are not doing things. So, for example, I made a friend when I was working for another company, namely Waffle House. It was a person who was basically a store manager at an Arby's over on Manchester. It appears that he quit that job and now started doing DoorDash as a part of the gig economy. He delivered something to my house once, mentioned it, and I was in the capacity of basically being an NPC because it was too damn early in the morning. My brain wasn't fully on, but I was taken aback by it, and so was he. We had friendly exchange, and he went about his day, getting back to the work that he had to, because he had to get back to the grind. That does not create class solidarity. We already achieved that when I got to know him and I sat in his room and watched his content about how he and another person that he was with that was basically an antisocial type were making content about Doki Doki Literature Club with his cat that he named Mr. N-Word. And I do mean he named it Mr. N-Word, as in Nigger. It was just being human, dude. As human as a guy who names his cat Mr. N-Word and makes jokes about an esoteric video game made... yeah, he was a fan of Lovecraft. Who made content about a video game that was all the rage at the time. Tide goes in, tide goes out.
These people don't believe in the American dream. They believe that if they don't make it through the day, they're gonna, starve to death or go homeless. So I say yes, let us utterly desecrate that veneer of a sterile, friendly culture that our corporate overlords once pushed so hard onto us. We've all been being taken advantage of in this country for hundreds of years. Let's stop pretending that we aren't. Let's replace our managerially mandated culture of dress codes, customer interaction scripts, and safe, inoffensive music with a real culture of workers who hate their bosses and don't see the point in trying to hide it anymore. The American dream is dead. It was a giant farce, practically a psyop to begin with, and now nobody believes in it anymore.
This entire time, you still have yet to define what you call the American dream. I know what people say it is. I know what the history books claim it is. But I want to know what you think, Leadhead. Or rather, what your fictional straw man that I have to diamond jacket thinks.
All except for one guy. The last American on Earth. 25 on 3.
For over a decade, this lunch lady...
This is Tank Sinatra of Tank's Good News, by far the most memorable face of GSTV. These guys that pay gas stations to play their content while you pump gas. And he is the last American on Earth.
You can't just call him the last American on Earth. It doesn't really mean anything.
No, it's like an abstraction, like the Joe Rogan thing in the artist video. Like, he's not literally trying to kill you. Tank Sinatra's not literally the last American on Earth. But people, like, they'll pick up on the vibe, right? Right? Am I crazy?
People will pick up on the vibe of the point that I'm trying to make about an esoteric idea that I am having my fictional character lay out as I'm having my family members play characters in this fictional world of how this person is being pulled down a pipeline into a leftist organization. Hard sell.
Okay, I can totally get that, but I don't know, I still think you should, like, add a little more context in the video.
Yes! You should. And lamp shading doesn't make it good writing. Why don't you just do it?
I might have already filmed this part. Whatever, man. Whatever.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Leadhead. Like, some of the basic ideas that a person could ever get about creative writing that you could probably just absorb by proxy by going on to fucking TV tropes of all goddamn places, since it's dominated by a leftist diatribe in the first place. I wish I could say this is worse than Starfleet Academy, but Starfleet Academy is actually somehow much worse.
Whatever. This is Tank Sinatra of Tank's Good News, and he is the last American on Earth. I don't really know anything about this guy. Nothing against him, I guess. He's just another guy trying to make a buck, maybe put a smile on someone's face. But I see Tank here as a sort of window into the world that I was told that I was born into. Every day, dozens and dozens of people pull up to this gas pump, and every single one of them is dealing with some bullshit that America and its shoddy social structure has imposed on them. Maybe they're on their way to go work a double so that they can chip away at their student loans. Maybe their kid is sick and they need to go to the pawn shop on the other side of town to try and get the money for medicine. Maybe they're just on break, stopping to get some cigarettes so that they don't punch their boss in the face and get themselves fired after a customer pissed all over the bathroom floor. But here, at this liminal, transitory space of refueling, for a brief moment, they're in Tank's world. And in Tank's world, nobody shows up to work high. The cops run around rescuing kittens from storm drains all day, and every homeless person is fed by kind pizza shop owners.
How are you getting all of that from what is effectively a person talking about a social instance of culture happening in the town? Are you serious? For all those eternal boomers out there, if you also still have a Facebook account, there are groups that exist for your town that are made by people who come from that place. In mine, for Georgia, we do in fact have a public Columbus, Georgia spottings event. There, for example, is a town native that drives a car that's completely covered in fur and Thai company brand Beanie Babies. Yes, it smells. And when we see sightings of it, we post about it on Facebook. What Leadhead just said through her character, us having someone make a video that would play on all of the gas stations in the area, but let's just make it specifically Couche-Tard. Just Circle K. Every time you go to the pump, when you put your gas canister and the nozzle into your tank, it starts auto-playing a YouTube video that talks about local sightings in your town. That video somehow is a macrocosm of the world that we were promised would exist back during 9/11 that never truly came to fruition because everything else in the world happened, and the liminal space that was that environment and that time period from our memories in nostalgia never propertized into what it came to be. That is now somehow a window into this vision of what the last American and the last American dream looks like. That's what the Leadhead is saying here. That's what the character's trying to put together. This person is a viewpoint into a lens of a culture that we could never truly engage in because that world that we live in doesn't exist in the time here and now that we're a part of. Pretension is not the word you can use to describe that. That is a level beyond just basic pretension.
In Tank's world, nobody's being sent to El Salvadoran concentration camps. In Tank's world, ice is just something that you put in a nice, refreshing cup of Pepsi to go along with new churros from Subway. Look, Tank isn't important here. He's not some big corporate conspirator designed to quell dissent in the proletariat. He isn't a psyop or anything like that.
Oh, I think much differently, actually. Tank, in your worldview, is an idea. of what other people that are against your worldview or have yet to be convinced to be a part of your worldview are and could be. They're representative status of what the people unconvinced of your argument actually are in practice versus what you could be dealing with intentionally on the side of most of your content. That is the reality of what it is. It is you, as a choice, choosing to make an argument about how other people perceive and do content, and how they then take in information from a benign experience that is actually super deep. Super deep. It's so super deep you don't even realize that you're a part of the programming deep. That is cope. That is cope. You are selling an idea based on something that is schizophrenic as an idea for your character. No, again, no amount of lamp shading is going to undo this, dude. This is something that you unironically believe that you're putting into the work and trying to imbue with your politics. And unfortunately, a feel-good story is sometimes just a feel-good story. Sometimes somebody does something good for the community and environment, not because it's a propaganda piece, but because they are just normal people. They're just normal people existing in a normal world, in a normal life. And all the stuff that they do, all the things that they are, all the complexities about them is the human experience that you don't see because you don't think that kind of human experience exists anymore. So you find it surprising that it actually happens the way that it's happening. And that's the part that's baffling. Again, humans have always existed. Human interactions have always existed. But somehow to you, the idea of a person on a automatic relay at a gas station pump represents an ideal world that you think is gone. When really, it's been here the entire time. You just don't come to the places where it can be found. Your fault. Not our fault. Your fault.
Nobody's being sent to El Salvadoran concentration camps. In Tank's world, ice is just something that you put in a nice, refreshing cup of Pepsi to go along with new churros from Subway. Look, Tank isn't important here. He's not some big corporate conspirator designed to quell dissent in the proletariat. He isn't a psyop or anything like that. He's just here to sell us some pistachios. But in doing so, he's giving us a glimpse back into our own naive past. He's a callback to a time where feel-good stories about cops giving kids birthday presents actually did inspire confidence in American policing, when we thought that everything was going to be alright in this country. This is the sort of thing that used to effectively distract people from the atrocities that our government commits every single day. The truth is, the concentration camps, the deportations, the children being taken away from their parents, it has always been what this country was about. It's more in our faces now, but
Cope.
It existed before Trump, and it'll exist after. Go read about the torture inflicted at Guantanamo Bay, or U.S.-occupied Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, really anywhere that we've occupied. Go read about the time that the cops dropped a bomb on a Philadelphian residential building in 1985, purely because there were black people organizing in it. And tell me that Trump is un-American. Back to Tank, though. He is, well, a liberal, from the look of things at least, and he feels so antiquated, so out of place in these dirty, soul-crushing gas stations with their scared, hopeless employees that watching him and watching the employees of the world demonstrate a completely different perspective on our culture, it just makes me feel like maybe change is in the air.
Once again, cope. If you're blind to something that you don't notice because your worldview tells you not to look for it because it needs to have confirmation bias, you problem.
Could this be the time that America develops an actual leftist party? Could the contrast between Tank's world and our world be a sign that this empire will soon collapse? I don't know, but these days, most Americans openly hate the government, the CEOs, and the mouthpieces that fillet them. Kids...
We've always hated them. But we also have to tolerate them. The difference is that most of us aren't open-faced insurrectionists. And I'm not talking January 6th insurrectionists. I mean the kind of people who will have ideas about balkanizing the country and creating civil war because they think that they are going to be able to manage all these people, when in actuality they can't even convince people of an argument.
Are apparently calling deep-throating getting kirked now. Luigi Mangione is widely celebrated as a hero, whether he's been proven guilty or not.
To by who? To who? Huh? That nigga's a villain. He didn't change anything. He murdered somebody. He burned his ideals in effigy and should spend his life in jail if he doesn't get the death sentence.
The vast majority of us are completely horrified of immigration agents kidnapping our families and friends, and even some of the Don't Tread on Me guys are starting to realize that that flag was supposed to be about killing cops.
Once again, cope. Reddit, unironically, is a goddamn conspiracy site that needs to be treated like the containment site that it is. You are 100% correct, Avalon. Reddit and its consequences are a disaster for the human race. Oh boy. How do you even begin to unpack that statement? I think you don't. You just let the snake lie in the box.
Huge swaths of the population believe that at least one of the last few presidential elections was rigged and a complete sham. The American dream feels...
They're allowed to think that. They're even allowed to argue that. But they also still have to deal with the fact that the reality of the world is the reality of the world, and that Trump is currently their president. Just like Biden was their president for 4 years. But he definitely was not the leader of the free world for those 4 years.
Feels more like a punchline than an ideal these days, and people are ready for some serious, fundamental changes. Changes that go well beyond abolishing ICE or replacing Trump with the next warlord in line.
Why would you abolish people whose job it is to put illegals over the border and deport them back where they came from? Legal and illegal are two different things.
While it may seem like I'm just talking about employees who...
If you don't believe in borders, open up your home. Open up your bank account. Start sending your money away to all those people that you think are your rivals. Open borders, right? You shouldn't have a border to your bank account access. Give me your money!
Don't smoke, still choosing to take smoke breaks because fuck it, who cares if it costs the company money? What I'm really talking about here, what I'm really seeing is the seed of a revolution. There are those that say that Americans are too comfortable for revolution. Maybe Tank is, but let me ask you this. Do you feel comfortable? Are you comfortable working 40 hours a week for people who hate you because you need to pay off the education which you were tricked into thinking would help you get a better job?
So now you're using a video on a gas station pump as a straw man of somebody who is allegedly comfortable in the state of the world as you see it. And then, impromptu, with absolutely no evidence, your character immediately goes off into the fucking pipeline of, well, are you ready for extracism? Do you feel comfortable? Are you an unkempt human American who's ready for some real revolution? Holy fuck.
Are you comfortable always being on camera and always having your voice recorded? Are you comfortable knowing that every business you visit to get groceries or food or treats or toys for your children is being backed through investments by firms that also fund the creation of the weapons of genocide?
I mean, ask me the same question, but make it about the video games that I play for escapism and how they choose to use their entire structure to uphold a business and its bridge initiatives as a smokescreen for why I desperately need to listen to talking points like yours. And I'm pretty sure the same opinion you can make about the industrial military complex, I can make about the industrial antagonistic complex that exists in games media. Because they're one and the same. Sometimes both operating at the same time from two different ends.
I'm not. Every time one of these stupid tech bubbles or housing bubbles burst, it's just another massive transfer of wealth from the middle class straight to the 1%. And at this rate, someday soon, the wealth divide's going to be so absurd that there will barely even be a middle class. And we'll be a nation of dejected, angry, and dissident grocery store employees, factory workers, gas station clerks, and private healthcare nurses getting called in to change out some rich asshole's bedpan at 3 a.m.
Several of those jobs that you just mentioned are not representative of the working class. It's representative of people who are on the upper ends of society. You're trying to act like you're trying to talk to blue-collar workers, but you're not actually addressing blue-collar workers. They be the level below the middle class, who are closer to the line of poverty.
And in this brave new world, as our houses collapse and our water dries up and our government fails to provide us with food or healthcare or security or hope, Tank's world won't exist anymore. The only truth that we'll know is that nobody's going to help us but our fellow workers. All that's going to be left of this culture once the veil of corporate sanitization and American exceptionalism is finally degraded away is a simple dichotomy. They've got the guns, but we've got the numbers. So what do y'all think? Was that ending too, like, explicit or anything?
Yes, it is, because you're actively calling for a roundabout revolutionary attack for insurrectionism. They have the guns, but we have the numbers. And then when we get guns, then we'll have the numbers and the guns! Oh my god. If you ever had more reason for why you should basically completely ignore the things that come from the leadhead, here's your sign. Bless this person's heart, but definitely not their mind, because they don't need wisdom or intelligence. It'll be wasted.
Dude, that was awesome. Baby, I think you should be a little bit more vague. I don't want to get vetted out.
No, I mean, like, I know you're right, but I mean, I don't know, like, we're trans, we're communists, we just randomly switched to Signal one day, like, we're already vetted out, dude. Plus I'm a YouTuber, that doesn't help. I don't know, I mean, I guess I just want to, like, show people that the systems that control our lives aren't absolute, you know?
No.
I don't want to be fetted out. What does fetted out mean in this context? You don't want to be considered corpo? Bitch, you're already corpo. You represent the definition of exactly what the transy class wants. And I do mean the transy class. The content creators that believe their content would be more effective if they become transgender and start doing things like this as skits. Your philosophy tubes. Your ContraPoints. It's so bizarre. Then again, Penelope is not truly going the furthest they could. If Penelope truly wanted to go as far as Penelope wanted to go, they would put on the miniskirt. The tight miniskirt. Hell, do what Philosophy 2 did that one time and, like, put fucking police tape over your body like it's a fucking outfit. That completely scarred people's eyes. That'll get them to listen to your podcast.
Oh, baby, I love the video, but I do think that we should all meet up later and have a little discussion about OPSEC.
No, that's probably a good idea. Hey, but in the meantime, I gotta get footage of this fucking sign at Wendy's before it starts snowing. You wanna go help? Keep an eye out for cops?
Would you mind grabbing me a Monster?
Yeah, I got you.
Hell yeah.
Written and directed by our loved ones, with music stolen from people by these names. Penelope only gets to steal music because of her patrons. Thanks to them, she doesn't need ad revenue. Because you see, by having the ad revenue, that makes you a sellout who's fetted out. You get to be a real communist because you don't actually have to have people subsidize your beliefs. Allegedly. Despite the fact that you have people subsidizing your beliefs. And it does the exact same shit as the other video. So what's the point of saying that it's fictional? Instead of just outwardly explaining your worldview as you truly believe it in your content, now you're going to claim that you're making a video series where you espouse the exact same viewpoints, but now you're putting it behind a straw man of a representation that people have to steel man in order to understand it, if not outright diamondback it. Let me guess, you even have the section where you directly tell them, well, my vision behind this was... Yep. What a waste. What a wastrel. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Sigh. Alright, switching gears. Where is this piece of content? Where is this piece of content? If I can't find it, then I'm just going to have to hang up for now. Let's see here. We have the secured patent that came from Mark Zuckerberg and AI about Meta securing a patent for an AI that keeps a user account running after the death by posting messaging and video calling, using the window account's past behavior from the now dead user. We have things from the Restore Britain movement, from Rupert Lowe as an MP. Clavicular went on to the Adam Friedland show. I have additional content from the Des Zembro, as well as a podcast debate from Andrew Wilson versus Papa Gut from the 9th of this month. Unfortunately, I believe all of this content is way too fucking long for us to cover in the amount of time between now and gaming night. As well as the Pod Awful appearance from Emily Yukis. Sash. However, I do not think I've gone over Memphis Waves per capita. Yep. I do not believe I've gone over Memphis Waves per capita video.
Hey internets, so one thing a lot of people struggle with is the concept of per capita. Because the thing a lot of people get wrong on this one is that there's more to per capita than just per capita. Or really, there's just more to statistical reasoning than per capita. And so this is going to be a quick rant explaining the per capita thing in a bit more detail, why it matters, what it implies, but also when it doesn't matter or doesn't imply what it usually would. Now, the quick rundown of what per capita means is based on the Latin phrase that means by heads or for each head, and it's used to mean something per person, with the point being just recognizing the statistical reality that the averages of chances of something to happen often matter more than just the actual base amount of it happening. For example, in the United States, every year more people die as the result of peanut butter than they die as the result of fugu. Does this mean that peanut butter is more dangerous than pufferfish? No, absolutely not, of course.
No, it doesn't mean that it's more dangerous. It just means it's the shark effect in most people's minds, where they oversimplify situations and information that they heard and relevance to something else that basically sits in their mind as a piece of fact-critical information versus the actual reality of the details. It's like the 1350 meme,
Of course not. That's completely ridiculous. It's just that very, very, very few people are eating fugu. And when they are eating it, it's usually being prepared by a very skilled chef because we know that it's a dangerous food to eat. The toxins, if not properly removed, can cause someone to die of respiratory failure. And of course, the number of people who are even just trying to eat fugu are less than 1% of the people eating peanut butter. So that's just a basic example of why the reasoning of per capita is important. If we human beings were too dumb to have this per head concept, then we would be doomed to believe some really dumb things. Which, unfortunately, a lot of us kind of are. Especially when it comes to confirmation bias and believing that which we ideologically align ourselves with. I think the most obvious example of this was the man or bear question. If you're hiking in the woods, would you rather come across a man or would you rather come across a bear?
Realistically, the problem with man or bear is that it was an ideological framework trap being used by women to claim that men are monsters and pigs and bastards that would rape and abuse and antagonize women, rather than the reality that it's probably just unlikely for you to come across a man who's going to have that kind of action in his mind versus a regular old fucking hiker that you're coming across on the trail. But of course, the nuance was never going to be a part of the discussion. It was only about this particular specific toxic worldview. And of course, after the situation and the drama and the meme died out, there was more examples to demonstrate the point that was being elaborated by all the people who were telling them, you're retarded for thinking that. Then the people were like, nuh-uh, nuh-uh, I saw it on Facebook. I saw it on Reddit. It's like my debate presentation. There's been more events that have proven me right about my worldview and about the way that I view the content and the way that I view the industry and the business and the marketplace of gaming than someone who unironically created our favorite talking phrase for this month and last month alone, namely being everything is money and Jews. Perfect case example of exactly why per capita is important, because at no point in time do people ever talk about the actual numbers. They talk about the perception that people have towards the content, and overstating and understating positions, and applying to Gish Gallop and move the goalposts and what they define as definitions that refute the point that they were trying to make.
Feminista nonsense and politics aside, the only thing about this question, in the end, that really matters is which one of the two is more likely to be dangerous. Say you're on a hiking trail and you find yourself face-to-face with another random man in the woods, or if you find yourself face-to-face with a bear in the woods. Which one is more likely to rip your face off? And which one is more likely to just be another fellow hiker and nod and wave at you and walk by you and do nothing? I don't know. This is a really tough question. So yeah, that's kind of just a silly clown world recent example. A lot of people got that one wrong, part of it just simply because of cultural misandry and feministas being a little bit dumb, but another big part of it is just people genuinely not understanding per capita. There are a lot of people out there just citing the base core statistics of the fact that, oh hey, more men do a violent crime towards other people than say bear attacks happen per year. And a few of those people were just disingenuous pseudo-intellectuals, but a few of them seem to actually believe their own BS. They seem to not understand that it doesn't really matter the base number of bad things that men do per year and base number of bear attacks that happen per year. What matters is, in that moment, in the context of that question, who is more likely to do something bad to you? A man or a bear face to face? And of course, the answer is it's far, far more likely to be a bear.
Obviously, exactly.
Because per capita, bears are more dangerous. That's really it. All of the other things about the discussion, there's some interesting things there. I even did a whole video on it. But ultimately, if you want to know the base reason why the side of saying that you would not want to pick the bear is right, it really just came down to per capita. And that's also just a good example of how a lot of people let politics get in the way of just obvious reasoning. And again, there have been many, many, many videos made on the whole man-bear question. But for this video, there's an additional thing here in regards to per capita that a lot of people miss. And this can be found by asking ourselves the question, okay, what is the solution to the bear question? Does the fact that bears are very dangerous per average encounter mean that the solution to the bear problem is that we should mobilize the entire United States military to hunt down and exterminate the bear menace? Sign up at your local recruitment station today so that you can participate in total bear death. Well, no, that's obviously a very, very, very dumb solution. Just because bears are dangerous per average encounter doesn't really mean you actually have to do anything about it. When things are working properly in nature, bears don't even end up interacting with us very much. Bears are considered a keystone species. They are good and necessary for the environment to work. Just because a bear encounter can be dangerous if you come face to face with them, that doesn't mean you actually have to do anything. The correct answer to the bear question is therefore to just leave them alone. Let the bears live deep keep in the forest where they belong and let them do their bear things.
But what about all the girls in tight yoga pants that need to go hiking? So they can have the pictures for Instagram. So they can seem worldly.
I know that kind of sounds silly, but hopefully I'm making my point here, which is that just because there's a per capita issue doesn't automatically mean that your solution to that per capita issue is the best solution.
So clearly what you should do is that we should have told them to leave the video games alone and leave the chuds where they are. Because the moment that they fucked with the video games is the exact moment that the entire world came against them, and we decided that they were our eternal enemies. Not our opponents, but our eternal enemies. True, based and true, based and true.
Usually more to the story, which means that if you're not careful, per capita can actually trap you in an oversimplification fallacy. There's a lot more to statistical reasoning, especially in regards to politics and philosophy, but also pretty much anything, than just per capita alone. There's often, yes, the dreaded word nuance involved. Like, here's another example I see often being thrown around. A post from PSA Sitch. This is the right-wing version of not understanding per capita, and it's quoting Shannon Hill. I don't see a single blue state, just blue cities trying to tell us how to live. And it's a map of the United States, mostly all voting red Republican, but then with a few blue dots. And of course, the issue here that PSA Sitch is pointing out is that, yes, those blue dots are less likely, but there's way more people living in those blue dots. When it comes to the two-party system of the United States, I think we kind of all know that Republicans tend to get a lot of votes from less populated rural areas, and Democrats tend to get a lot of votes from the more populated urban areas. Pretty basic stuff. And thus, when it comes to total votes, when you look at maps like this, it's entirely possible for there to be more total votes from the blue areas, or more per head if you're just looking at these districts as heads. And I often see a lot of times libs will make fun of Republicans for this, saying, oh haha, Republicans don't get it, and to some degree, yeah, there's a lot of Republicans who don't get per capita here. But
see, the problem here is that it's the inverse of land doesn't vote. No one's saying that there isn't larger proportional total amounts of people living in the blue hovels. It's the inverse of them saying, all these people shouldn't be allowed to have opinions because we only care about the final sum total of the votes, versus the people who simply do not want their worldview and their livelihood to be decided by people who don't know that the flyover states that they complain about are the places where the majority of their food comes from. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Avalon. Land may not vote, but it's quite useful in a Civil War scenario when one side controls all the food and industry and the other side controls the paperwork. True. But of course, this is slightly outside the nuance of the per capita argumentation. But I see it as an inversion of all the things that I've heard literally over all of my life by individuals who then mug down to people and smug to them about them not understanding the world.
there's also another interesting midwit meme involved in this, where the low IQ guy is just looking at the map and saying, herder, I see more red than blue, and the midwit was going, ah ha ha, Republicans are dumb, they don't understand per capita, and perhaps maybe on that degree he's right. But then you have the more interesting nuanced take, which is when you start questioning the very legitimacy of universal suffrage. Because a long time ago, it really was just landowners who were able to vote. And was that fair back then? No, it wasn't. But the federal budget sure as heck was a lot more balanced. And so there's additional questions like that when it comes to per capita. Sometimes there's a quality over quantity take in addition to per capita. Which then leads to realizing that another thing with per capita is that you also have to look at the distribution. This is something a lot of people misunderstood in my previous videos in regards to the Groypers and the JQ. A lot of people thought that I was just suddenly going back on per capita and then suddenly not understanding per capita when it comes to Dajus. And perhaps I just didn't make it clear enough. So here's another explanation. When it comes to a population group having a disproportionately high amount of guilt per capita towards a certain problem, you also have to look at how the distribution goes. For example, let's say you're living in the US and there's 100 elves in the country. And out of these 100 elves, there are 300 thefts that take place per year. Now, that of course, as an ethnic group, is a very widely, ridiculously high amount of theft per capita compared to any other ethnic group. But consider two different models. In Model A, you have one elf out of these 100 elves committing 300 acts of theft, and a local judge just keeps letting that one elf walk free for some strange reason. And then in Model B, all 300 elves commit anywhere between 2
That's funny.
to 4 thefts per year.
Probably morbid, but that's funny.
Now in both of these models, technically, per capita, they're the same. But of course, they're both very widely different in terms of what's going on. From a purely consequentialist perspective, you could, in theory, justify arguing throwing all the elves out based on Model B. But you obviously can't make that argument based on Model A. And of course, in both cases, we're still really only looking at 100 elves here. So as long as your society's normal method of dealing with thieves is in place, as long as that's functioning, it's not really a big thing to be concerned with. As long as that system is in place, the elves that are actually guilty of doing something wrong will end up removing themselves. At absolute worst, it could justify people being a bit more suspicious of elves in the country, but not much more than that. Going back to the bear question, saying that the solution to the problem would be to mobilize the entire United States military to remove the elvish menace would also, in this situation, be a very silly, very ridiculous, very unnecessary overreaction. And that's assuming Model B. In Model A, the solution is even more obvious. Just make sure that one elf actually gets punished for their crimes, or at the very least is physically removed from the rest of society so they can no longer commit those crimes. And that's the issue I was trying to point out with Groypers and the JQ. They get hyper-fixated on Jews because they forget that there's more to statistical reasoning and more to understanding solutions than just per capita. You have to look at both the distribution and you have to look at the greater context of what's really going on. Because in the case of the JQ, their issue is mainly just having a disproportionately high representation in backroom corrupt deals, lobbying, foreign aid, influence in the bureaucratic state, as well as the cathedral of academia and media. And of course,
content creation and entertainment, but that is all underneath content creation and media.
Of course, it also should be pointed out that the distribution in this is much closer to Model A here. Most Jews aren't actually involved. It's really just a high representation in the top 1% of elites. And what a lot of times I'll see happen is that noticers will notice this and basically fall into this rabbit hole of completely counterproductive, ridiculous anti-Semitism. They will conclude that because of this high per capita influence, then removing of the Jews is somehow the highest political importance. When in reality, no, it's not. The real solution to the bureaucratic state is to just abolish the bureaucratic state. Like, for example, when it comes to foreign aid, what really needs to happen is that our politicians shouldn't be allowed to even give out foreign aid. And when that happens, the fact that Israel gets a disproportionately high amount of foreign aid, well, at that point, it wouldn't even matter anymore. That's the point I was trying to make. While their contributions to these problems is high per capita, because the total number of the problem is not that high, it doesn't meaningfully change the solution to these problems away from just abolishing these institutions outright. And
it's the same solution that you could have about politicians homebound. If you don't want people like in my state, Raphael Warnock, trying to jet set across the world for things that have nothing to do with the state of existence happening inside of what is supposed to be his home where his megachurch is founded, restrict the GDP as the limiting factor of how much money they get to make from Congress when they're on Capitol Hill doing their job. He'll then become intimately aware of all the problems that are holding back people in Georgia because his money depends on it. The same way you could say that an audience-captured content creator would have to do the same because their money depends on it. Because the alternative, of course, as you saw, was Leadhead. I don't have to take money because my audience subsidizes my content for me. But I'm also trapped to make the content that only those people want to make. And only content that they want to see. Not truly just supporting you for your work, but supporting the fact that you are a mouthpiece for their philosophy. And thus you must keep making what they want to see, because you are the justification that they use for their behavior and action.
Taking powers away from politicians that they shouldn't have to begin with. That is the flip side of per capita that a lot of people don't really get. There's a lot more to statistics and strategy and understanding what's going on in the world and how to fix it than just per capita. Per capita is important, but it's not everything. Anyways, hopefully that clears a few things up. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support me, you can do so on Ko-Fi, Subscribestar, or by buying some merch. That is all for now. Till next time.
We're at 3:01. I have things I have to do for an hour. I will return you all at the eve of 4 o'clock for gaming night. And tomorrow, we will dig in on this extra shit that is on my table. And then we will have to get into the cultist. If not Friday, Saturday. It's the whole thing I gotta put together. I got a lot of research on him I have to do. Lots of reading. Lots and lots of reading and watching and viewing. I will see you again in an hour, just like I will tomorrow, to give you a donut today. Goodbye. Woohoo.